Thank you, Jasmine. It's breaking up a little bit, but I certainly understand the question about diets and all of that. And I think diets for pets are kind of like diets for people. And a lot of the time we just make them unnecessarily complicated. And you can always go back to your grandma or somebody's advice that would just say, eat healthy, which is good advice for us people. In the dog and cat world, what we would say most of the time is they should be on a commercial diet, which is formulated for their stage of life. So that would be kitten or puppy, young active dog, adult, and then moving up into the geriatric breeds where we do start restricting protein and doing some of those other things. A lot of the information on diets, like people's opinions on nutrition for us, I think is overly complicated and confused by marketing, and it becomes very difficult to sort it out. But I think what most veterinarians and animal nutritionists would tell you would be to feed a nationally known brand of dog food that's been around forever. And there certainly are brands of dog food that have been around 80 years or more. And I think most veterinarians and studies, the big three they always talk about are Purina diets like Purina Pro Plan, Hill's Science Diet, and Royal Canin are the big names in dog foods. And we always say people always have their own opinions about nutrition, whether it's for ourselves or for our pets, but in reality, grain-free, gluten-free are rarely considerations in dogs and cats. Cats are certainly carnivores and they don't need much carbohydrate in their diet, but dogs like us are omnivores and they do eat grain and those kind of products, and it's an important part of their diet and not a filler, as some people would lead you to believe. So we rarely worry about gluten-free, grain-free, unless we have that very uncommon pet that seems to have an allergy for that. I think in rare situations, raw food diets are indicated, but generally for the health of our pets and for the health of ourselves, we tend to shy away a bit from raw diets because we don't want to bring Salmonella, E. coli, and other parasites either into the pet's food chain or into the food processing chain in our household and potentially infect us people with it. So most of the time, and certainly a lot of processing of pet food is heat treating it, which kills bacteria and parasites, but some of the raw food diets do have pressure treatments that can accomplish that. So hopefully that's not too long of an answer for you.
Yes, no, not at all. Thank you so much. It's really great information. Actually, another course that we discussed about a lot of times what they are, how we can protect them, different types of infections you might receive.
Yeah, and breaking up a bit, but I think we're going to talk about parasite prevention now, and probably the #1 communicable disease between dogs once they have had their vaccinations and they're beyond the distemper parvovirus worry about things are intestinal parasites. And as we all know, with cats are a bit more fastidious than dogs, that's for sure. But all of us with dogs know that we walk them, they'll chew on anything, eat anything, sniff anything, and that is commonly how they pass parasites from dog to dog. Probably the big ones we worry about parasite-wise are the intestinal parasites, which are the common worm-type parasite, roundworms, hookworms, whipworms. Then we have protozoal parasites like Giardia, and Giardia is probably the #1 parasite of cats and dogs nowadays that we diagnose. And then we have other protozoal parasites like Coccidia, and we have medication for all of those. We have tests where we can detect them, and most of the time in dogs with their habits. It's just a matter of medication to control the parasites when they get them and rid them of the parasites. And then the other parasite we worry about a lot is heartworms, which is actually a worm-type parasite that lives in the hearts of dogs and also infects cats, spread from pet to pet by mosquitoes, and we manage that with a monthly preventative medication. And that monthly preventative medication for heartworms also controls the intestinal parasites we talked about. Most of them, meaning roundworms, hookworms, whipworms, tapeworms, are all controlled by that. So as much as we dislike giving our pets medication and these kind of things, I think the benefit they receive from it far exceeds any risk that they're exposed to, and it's just because of the habits of dogs expose them to a lot of parasites that we need to control for their health.
If mosquitoes tend to be the issue for heartworm, are there more months of the year that you're more likely to see those issues?
More months out of the year.
You know, there are, you know, and in San Diego, I guess we're fortunate, and that's why everybody wants to live here, because we don't have any really harsh seasons that kill mosquitoes. So we do have more mosquitoes during the summer, but they're around most of the year. And the other problem, not to make this too complicated, but dogs and cats get heartworms because a mosquito lands on dog or cat A, bites the infected dog or cat, flies to dog or cat B and bites them, and that's how the parasites are passed. But the way the heartworm medication works is it kills that parasite during its migratory phase, which can be over a 1 or 2 month period. So nowadays, it's recommended that heartworm medication be given year-round, because we are treating not only the current moment, but any parasites that may be in the migratory phase. So it's long enough, that migratory period is long enough that it's just simpler, more effective to give them the medication once a month year-round. Or for heartworms now, they do have an injection that lasts for 12 months.
It's really great information. I think that's something that I don't think a lot of people knew. So thank you so much. That's awesome. Another question after this is
On basic health, you were asking? Yeah, you know, in a lot of that we talked about already. One, as in us people, nutrition is important, not only in young growing pets that need adequate minerals for bone growth, but not excessive minerals that might hurt with that. I think in any stage of life, as we know in people, we want to control our weight, because being overweight compounds a lot of other heart problems, respiratory problems, joint problems, inflammatory problems. So nutrition is critical at all stages of life. You know, we do not like to over-vaccinate dogs and cats. And in the old days, certainly it seems like we gave endless vaccines every year. Nowadays, we have vaccines for most things that are good for 3 years. So we vaccinate most cats and dogs every 3 years. And we do have a lot of more advanced vaccines that are contain less byproduct, less preservative, less thimerosal is a big one people talk about. And we try to eliminate or minimize those things in the vaccine, so we minimize the risk to pets. But anyway, but certainly with vaccines, the risk of vaccination is far outweighed by the benefits that pets get from it. And those of us, especially in the midst of this pandemic that we're talking about now, but those of us in veterinary medicine that see dogs die from distemper and parvovirus, and see cats die from panleukopenia, which is the technical name for cat distemper, recognize that vaccination is very important. And then on you go, general health training. So dogs come when they're called, and you know, avoid accidents, running in the street and those kind of things. You know, socializing our pets so they interact with other dogs without too much mayhem going on. And those are the kind of important things, I think, for pet health. Did I miss anything, Casey? Do you think? Yeah, I think those are the big things.
That's wonderful. Thank you for getting on to vaccination. What are the main vaccinations that
You know, the main vaccines that we use nowadays, I think like when we get vaccines ourselves, we talk about core vaccines and non-core vaccines. Certainly cats get vaccinated for feline distemper, which panleukopenia is the real name for that, and then several viral diseases like rhinotracheitis and calicivirus, and we vaccinate our cats and kittens for those. All pets, cats and dogs, get vaccinated for rabies for a couple of reasons. One, because it's a big threat to them, and also it's a big public health issue because it is a rare creature, whether it's a cat, dog, or person, that survives rabies infection. And it's not a huge problem in the people population here in San Diego and most places in the U.S., but it certainly is here in bats, skunks, and other wild animals. So it's around us, and what we don't want to have happen is that viral reservoir move from those creatures into the pet and people population, which is what we talk about a lot nowadays with this COVID virus moving from bats into the human population. You know, basic core vaccines in dogs, the big ones that we really absolutely have to protect dogs from are parvovirus and distemper. And a lot of people, I think, are just misinformed about those vaccines, but with young dogs, puppies, it's important that they get a minimum of 2 vaccines, but often they'll get 3, 4, or even more as they go through their puppyhood and development, just depending on at what age they start their vaccines and how frequently they're given. So those are the big ones, distemper and parvo, but we also vaccinate for infectious canine hepatitis, which is a viral disease, parainfluenza, which is a viral disease, and what am I forgetting here? And you know, in the up and coming one now that's newer that is now considered a core vaccines for dogs is leptospirosis. And leptospirosis is a bacterial disease that's spread in the urine of other animals. And in our, you know, our urban, suburban kind of lifestyles that most of us in America live in, that is mice, rats, possums, raccoons, and things coming through our yard and through parks, and they do indeed leave that leptospirosis there. So we do vaccinate for that now as well. There's other non-core vaccines like Lyme disease and those things that may be used under special circumstances, but generally not ones that we vaccinate for very much. Oh, and Bordetella. I knew I was forgetting one. Casey just reminded me. And the other one we vaccinate for a lot, which I'm sure you do at FIDUS, you know, concierge services, dog park, doggy daycare, dog training, all of those is Bordetella, which is, they used to in the old days call kennel cough, but nowadays maybe they say we should call it dog park cough or doggy daycare cough or one of those other things. And so we vaccinate for that as well because it is readily or highly contagious from dog to dog. It's not a life-threatening disease generally, but it's certainly annoying if your dog coughs for 4 to 6 weeks and, you know, and you're giving them medication. So